So we're here in the Students' Union in the Media Hub in Studio 2. We're here with Ian Walker, the Conservative Party candidate for Sheffield Hallam. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you for inviting me in. Good to be here.
So, how is obviously they launched the manifesto yesterday in Halifax. How is that manifesto going to help students, not just here in Sheffield, but around the country?
Well, I think the most important thing for this next Parliament is actually getting the whole Brexit deal right. That's going to be the key thing. And actually Theresa May, or whoever's Prime Minister after June the 8th, was going to have the most difficult job of any Prime Minister since the war. And it's in all our future's interests that we get the trade deal right, get the Brexit deal right. And I think that's absolutely critical. We've all voted on that. My family, like many, voted in different ways. But I think most people realise we've just got to get on and get the best deal for Britain. So I think that's the most important thing to remember. I think in it, I've got 4 kids. They've all one's still at university, the others have left now. One's doing a PhD, and they've been to Stanford, they've been to Princeton. The international exchanges of students is really important. And I think that's something we want to make sure we find that there's a smooth way to do that. It's absolutely vital to get the right deal on that as well.
So would you support remaining in the Erasmus programme, which allows students to study abroad for a semester or 2 during their education?
Yeah, I would. I think it's really important that we find ways of funding and supporting that exchange of ideas and students across the world, across the EU. And I think if there are ways of doing that, that's to everybody's benefit. I absolutely agree.
How would you help students and young people, specifically in Sheffield Hallam, if you were elected on June the 8th?
Well, again, I was born and bred in Sheffield. I've started manufacturing businesses, exporting manufacturing businesses myself. And I think the key thing to help students actually is to find an economy that's growing, that's creating more jobs, that's creating more opportunities. And that's something we absolutely need to do. I was chairman of Sheffield's Training and Enterprise Council a few years ago, really helping to train and educate apprentices and folks in the early employment stages. And that's something the Conservative government is continue to commit to, that training investment for the long term.
What kind of Brexit deal would you back, no matter who's Prime Minister? Like hard Brexit, soft Brexit,
Well, I mean, it's regrettable that the European Union has stated that we can't stay in the single market. We had hoped that we may be able to negotiate a way where we can still have control over immigration, but still have membership of the single European market. But the EU has told us we can't cherry pick, so that's clear. We're out of the single European market. And that was very clearly explained to voters in the referendum. The publications that came out centrally explained very much that if you vote for Brexit, you may well end up coming out of the single European market. So I think that's a given now, and that's what people decided we need to move on with that. What we need to do is to ensure we have a really good trade deal with the EU. And I think it's important, the reason that Theresa May has called this election is that she has a big majority rather than a small one. Because if you have a small majority, you have to look over your shoulder all the time to extremists on either side who want to have their view put in place. And having a good majority gives you the opportunity to actually deliver what is best for the country as a whole.
So I saw something about in the manifesto, overseas students, when they finish their course, would be made to leave the country after they'd finished if they didn't meet some higher requirements. Do you believe this is something that should be implemented?
Well, I think that does make sense, and I think that at the moment we have a situation that's really unfair on many countries. Students that come from outside the EU, have to meet those requirements already, and I think it's important that we have a level playing field because there's some really good students from India, Pakistan, Africa, Australia, America, wherever, and I think we need to have a level playing field so that we can attract the best talent to the UK. And I think if a student graduating here is able to contribute in a meaningful way, then I think that's great. They're able to stay, but there has to be some kind of limit. We want to welcome as many students as possible to the UK. And as many UK students want to go overseas to do the same. That mutual exchange is only beneficial. But if you're going to have to find some way of limiting, the immigration coming into the UK, that's appropriate. That you then say, well, okay, there's got to be some limit. It's got to be on the basis of how much people can contribute to the prosperity of the rest of the country.
So you were the candidate for Hallam 2 years ago as well.
That's right.
And
yes.
you came third.
was a split vote, exactly,
Yeah.
a three-way split.
Yeah.
And indeed, I think last time was a very different election. A lot of people voted tactically last time because they were really worried about a Labour SNP coalition. Well, that's history. That's out of the window now. And they voted for Nick Clegg really as an insurance policy in many ways. What we see now is people coming back to Conservatives who were Conservatives anyway. They voted Lib Dem just to keep Labour out. And I think we have a good chance to get the message across now. There's a clear choice, really, in this election. Whoever is the candidate or the MP for Hallam is either going to be supporting Theresa May or trying to frustrate her. In my view, this is the most important parliament since the war. I was out campaigning for Leave myself, although my family voted different ways, with people from all sorts of other parties, and it was great to see those tribal barriers coming down. It was a real a great experience, that. And I think now people realise that we've got to get this sorted out. Maybe normal hostilities might resume in 5 years' time, but for now, this is the most important task to get this whole deal right.
Yeah. Aren't you a bit worried though about being a candidate in quite a student-heavy area? Because traditionally students aren't. Although they may seem to be coming round to the idea of voting Conservative, in the past they haven't been very pro-Tory.
Well, there was an article in your Tab magazine last week showing that 30% of students here are going to vote Conservative, and I think that's wonderful. And at the end of the day, people, they want the prosperity of having a job and a career once they graduate. And it's only Conservatives that have actually driven down unemployment in this country. It's now at record high employment. And that's something I think people realise at the end of the day, they want an economy that works for them so they can earn earn a living for their family, and also contribute in the taxes to the NHS and the social care and the schools that we all need. Yeah.
Is it important that students go out and vote no matter who they're going to vote for on June the 8th?
Absolutely. I would say to any person, any student or any age group, you must go and vote. I think it's really important you do that, whatever party you support, and that's fine. That's democracy. So please get out and vote. And
one final one: if some of these policies in the manifesto, and we saw it today a bit with John McDonnell saying, 60 uncosted promises. If the Tories are the low tax party that people high up in the leadership would claim, how are they going to fund things like extra money for the NHS or mental health services, and so on?
Well, absolutely right. I mean, you're right. I think the Conservative Party in general is a party of low tax. We feel it's best that people keep their own money to decide how they spend it better than government. But there are things that only government can spend, like the NHS. And we've committed to put another $8 billion into the NHS over the next 5 years. I was a non-exec director of the NHS here in Sheffield, and then later on for the NHS North of England. So I really believe passionately in the NHS. We need to invest in it. And under this next government, we'll be investing more every year in the NHS in real terms, and also having the biggest investment in equipment and technology we've ever seen. So I think it's really important that we do that, but we do it by growing the economy. That's how we do it. So we don't tax people, because that in a sense, often shrinks the economy. We do it by growing the economy so that there's a bigger tax base that we can all share into that and fund things like the NHS and there's other things that we need to do. We have to grow the economy to do that. And indeed, I guess that 2 years ago, the election was won. There was a debate about how much austerity and how quickly we should reduce the deficit. And the Conservatives won that argument against Labour at the time. Theresa May has relaxed to some extent the timescale which the debt will be paid down, so I think that argument is kind of in our favour now. People have realised you do need to pay for these things. We do need to earn our way to be able to afford all these things we want to do. But in times of difficulty, you do have to borrow, which we have done. But we're trying to get that down. It's been reduced by 2/3 since 2010. As we will get it down to zero as quickly as sensibly possible without damaging our vital resources like the NHS, schools, and social care.
Yeah, okay. I think that's all my questions.
Is that good? Well, it's been very nice to be here again, and thank you for your time.